Other one, this is ring announcer Thomas Triber. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived for Inside Boxing Weekly. So here are your hosts, Mike Goodpaster, John Einreinhofer, and Jeremiah Preisser on the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Inside Boxing Weekly, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, or one of my two co-hosts, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm doing damn well. I'm happy to be on this esteemed panel of intellectual titans. Let's get this ball rolling, man.
All right, and, I mean, we've got a lawyer, too. And that lawyer is John Einreinhofer. How you doing, John?
Good to be here, Mike. We've got a significant fight to talk about this week, so it's,
but we're not going to talk about the Gerald Washington Charles Martin fight. I already told you that, John. All right,
right. We're going to go beyond this significant fight,
and we have the esteemed guest with the brain. He wrote, what was that? Blood on My Notebook. Make sure you go check that out on Amazon. Great book. Also, of course, wrote the Gotti Ward book, which I've obviously been hit in the head too many times. Intimate Warfare. Make sure you check that out on Amazon also. Help me welcome to the show the fan of the Mitchell Trubisky fan club, John Raspanti. How you doing, John?
Hey, you don't have to tell everybody just because I'm the president of Mitch's club. No, I'm doing great. Always great to join you guys. I'm all ready to talk about Washington and Martin, so let's get to it, Mike.
All right, so Deontay Wilder. We are just a few days away from one of the most anticipated rematch in the last 20 years, wouldn't take that much, as undefeated WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder will once again defend his title against undefeated lineal champion, even though he's really not, Tyson Fury, Saturday night at the MGM Grand. Let's just start off here. John Raspanti, does this fight determine an actual real-life heavyweight champion?
Yeah, I guess. It's so hard to determine. It's so hard for me because, as you guys probably know, I'm not impressed very much with any of these guys. So it's hard for me to he is the heavyweight champion. Joshua's got his belts, but you got to remember he lost to Andy Ruiz, and he beat him in the rematch. But I guess whoever wins this fight is the number one guy. I don't know. It's even hard for me to say that with a straight face. But forgetting all that stuff, it is an entertaining fight. It will be, I hope. There's a lot of intricacies going on, and these guys are polar opposites, like Jekyll and Hyde in some ways. So whatever happens, I think it's good for boxing because it's a heavyweight fight, and a lot of people are very interested. And talent level, we won't go there yet, but I do believe that, I guess so. I guess if Fury or Wilder wins, they can call themselves the top dog in the division.
John Einreinhofer, is this to be the true heavyweight champion of the world?
Yeah, I think if you clear away the alphabet cloud, I think this one's surprisingly clear. Fury, even if you don't recognize him still as the lineal champ, he's undoubtedly the last guy to win it in the ring, and he's undefeated. And then you've got both Transnational and the Ring are recognizing this as for the heavyweight title, the 1 and 2 guys facing off against each other. So I kind of don't understand the smoke screen to me, it seems like Joshua fans. We don't have to go there too far, but as John mentioned, the guy got knocked out by Andy Ruiz. You know, he danced away in a clear win in the rematch against Ruiz, who looked like he trained at Burger King. And there's just really no legitimate historical dispute that this is for the heavyweight title. So I think that's something for everybody to get behind and get excited about, whether you like Fury, Wilder, both, or neither.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, I think Andy Ruiz was training at the McDonald's playpen for the rematch.
Hey, can we stop fat-shaming Andy Ruiz?
All right.
We're shaming his training, Mike, his training.
Yeah. Forget the fact that he had tits bigger than my wife. But listen, it's
Don't we all? Go ahead. Sorry, Jeremy.
Not listening.
I'm bigger. I'm bigger than her, so I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is one. This is two. I think, as Einreinhofer rightly pointed out, Joshua, as good as he is, argue as you may that he has the best overall resume in the heavyweight division. I think it just stands to reason that he lost his place in line when he got beat by Ruiz, who was not universally ranked. I don't think Transnational had him. I think he was.
No.
I think he was removed due to inactivity, and even when he was a top 10 guy, he was the back end top 10. So I think that's enough. Even though he, kind of reassumed his position near the top, by beating Ruiz in a clear and dominant fashion, I think these two have to be seen as the 1 and 2 guys. Even though, no matter who wins, hopefully one of these guys wins. The prospect of a draw and then a third fight, I'm not all that into. But I think that this is a clear 1 and 2, even though the best heavyweight may still be in doubt afterwards. But this is for the marbles.
Who would you say would be in that doubt?
Well, I think Joshua is still a player. To me, even if Fury goes on and dominates Wilder, or Wilder knocks Fury out in 2 rounds, to me, there's still enough doubt that Joshua may be the top dog. Again, this is for the heavyweight championship of the world, but Joshua may be good enough to beat either one of these guys. So there's just a little cloud of doubt there.
I think they are clearly the number 1 and 2 guys. The winner will be the heavyweight champion of the world. And he can then be on my top 10 list of worst heavyweight champions of all time. So let's do this. John Einreinhofer, did you see the list for the 3 judges and the referee today?
Yes.
So what's your take on it?
I'm not concerned about it in terms of, people, it's boxing, it's the scoring's subjective. People are gonna complain no matter what. So, like I've said before, Weisfeld, he's a lawyer, in New Jersey.
So we definitely can't trust him, you're saying?
Yeah, I don't set myself up for that, but it's just that, you can't,
I know you did too. It's wild. It took me a while to
concerns.
respond to it. I figured, why would John give me such low-hanging fruit? But go ahead.
Right. So I don't think any problem. When I don't want to digress, and let me be fair, even though I've had plenty of problems with all kinds of other fights he's had in recent years, I thought Jack Reese was fine in this fight, in the first fight. I didn't have any problem with what he did. But with that said, to me, thank God he's not near this fight, because, when they announced Kenny Bayless, I'm like, of course it's Nevada, not California, but it's just Reese popped up in Tennessee last week, and I'm happy to see Jack Reese away from any big fight right now. So I was, in that sense, okay to see Bayless. And the judges, as far as judges go, and then, you got Moretti and Feldman. These are experienced judges. I think it's okay. If you have a close fight, you're always going to have controversy, like you had in the first fight. So it doesn't overly concern me. You're going to get people complaining if it's a close fight, no matter what.
My concern is Kenny Bayless, John Raspanti.
Okay, Mike, tell me why.
Because I think he would stop this fight a lot quicker than it needs to be stopped. I also think there's a concern that we have an Englishman coming on American soil with 1 American referee and 3 American judges.
Even though the last time the guy scored a draw.
John, I don't know what that matters, because this is the thing. Anybody that scored at a draw was an idiot, because the only people that thought that he won were like 27 people that live in America. But go ahead, John Raspanti.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, so you're saying that you think if Wilder gets Fury in some trouble, he might pull the plug a little early.
Well, I think Bayless has kind of a history of doing that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I guess he does sometimes, but I think he's overall a good referee. I know what you're talking about. I had to think for a minute. Yeah, I remember what you're talking about, but he's good. I don't think that anybody that's involved with this promotion wants anything weird to go on. I agree with you, Mike. I thought Fury won the first fight, rather handily, even with the 2 knockdowns, and I don't think they want any repeat of that. I think what they want, to be honest, is a really good, tight fight that somebody wins, and there's always going to be controversy if it's close, so they can set up a third one. That's actually what I'm thinking. They're already talking about it.
And really, John Einreinhofer, I'm not saying because I think that it'll be fixed because of that. I'm just saying that with boxing, there's been known to be questionable things go on. I just think it's more of a perception thing than anything else.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, myself, I didn't think Fury won the first fight. I thought, he had moments of effectiveness, but there was a lot of rounds where there wasn't that much to choose from, and he got dropped twice. I think Wilder winning close or a draw was fine as far as I was concerned. But, I mean, we're going on to this. And one thing I got to clarify, though, is, this is boxing as all of us know, how things like this happen. My understanding is that there already is a contractual obligation for a third fight, no matter what happens.
Oh, yeah, they're going to fight a third time.
Yeah, if Fury goes if Fury knocks Wilder out in the first round, or if Wilder knocks Fury out in the first round, there's going to be a third fight. So I think from with controversies and things, I think from a boxing perspective, like John said, usually they're setting up one with a controversy this time, but this time it's in the contract anyway going in. I think they need a good fight. So in other words, like kind of Jeremiah was saying, I mean, I think Anthony Joshua, even though I think there's an argument, maybe in the long haul, maybe he still turns it around and becomes the best heavyweight. I think that's in doubt, but I think clearly the best heavyweight's coming out of Saturday night and who the champ is. But if these two guys, for some reason, and we know boxing, strange things can happen, if this fight stinks for some reason and both guys are overly cautious for 12 rounds or something like that, that's going to leave controversy and the door open a little bit for Joshua if you're going into a contractual third fight, and even though that'll still be for the championship, but these guys are coming off a boring fight. I think if it's a good fight and both guys perform well, even the loser, I think, is going to be okay with a contractual third fight and it clearly being for the title. And then I think Joshua and Hearn are going to be in hell because they're going to be fading further and further off the radar screen, fighting Kubrat Pulev over, in the UK. It's not going to do it if this fight Saturday night is really good. I think they'll be fading into at least temporary oblivion. So you got to look at the factor that a third fight supposedly contracted. And from what I've read in the last week or so, which I didn't know either, the credible reports in the last week or so seem to be that the contract requires the third fight to be this year as well.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. Jeremiah, the other big question is, it's been, 14, 15 months since these guys fought. Wilder's 34 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
When you've watched these guys, Jeremiah, there are a couple fights they've had in between there. Do you think either one of them has improved at all, or do you think we're getting pretty much the same kind of fighters?
I mean, I think we're getting a better Fury. That seems to be a more obvious opinion than saying Wilder has improved. I just, with Wilder, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, a lot of people say that he's learning to time his right hand better and this and that. I just, at the same time, he's still being outboxed. And, right? It's like he loses, arguably every round to Luis Ortiz, and then he lands one right hand. And then, it's like, well, is he really timing his right hand better? For me, it's tougher to make out in Deontay Wilder's case than it is Tyson Fury. Fury looks a bit tighter, looks a bit quicker. The Wallin fight didn't go as planned, but, he got a bad cut. He improvised a little bit, thought he would fight it out. I think we're getting a better Wilder. I think we're getting a better Fury. I don't know about a Wilder, but I think because of that, that's why I tend to favor Fury here, but I'm sure we'll get on to the predictions later.
All right, John Raspanti, same question.
I think Wilder might be a little better only because he's already fought Fury once. So I just think it's natural. Anybody who's ever played sports, if you ever played one-on-one with somebody, usually if you played them again, at least you had a better idea what it was like to play them again. You knew their moves a little better. I noticed in the Ortiz fight he was very relaxed. He wasn't throwing as many wasted punches, but I don't think that he can do that against Fury. I personally think he needs to use his jab a lot more to be more effective. Fury's going to weigh, supposedly, he said, if he's telling the truth, 270 pounds. So you're going to figure that he's going to have a 50-pound, at least, weight advantage over over Wilder. So he's going to walk him around the ring, try to tire him out, lean on him, do everything he can think of. Fury is a freak in a sense. I mean, he's a hulking guy, 6'9", right? They say he's going to weigh 270, but he can move around. And Wilder, who is built more like a basketball player, has terrible footwork and doesn't move around very well. And can he fight off his back foot? I don't think so. So, if you think anybody's going to be sharper, common sense tells you it's going to be Fury. The only thing is with that extra weight, he might be sharper, but he might be a tad slower. And that might be enough for Wilder to wind up with that right hand and maybe even surprise him, hit him with a left hook. And we know he can hurt him. We know he can knock him down. So that makes it very interesting as far as who. But yeah, you go with Fury just because he's a better boxer. But I think they both want it, and I think they're going to bring their A game Saturday night, whatever that is.
All right, John Einreinhofer.
I think at the ages they are, Wilder's 34 and Fury's 31. Overall, physically, it's hard to say to me that either of them will be better this time. I think Wilder is fortunate. I think Mike, we had talked about this before, and I do think it's a factor, but I think it's fortunate for Wilder the fight's happening now and even this third fight that's in the contract because he's 34. I think Wilder will be around for a while, but his style is going to change even a little bit more, maybe to his detriment. When he gets over the hump of 35 on the wrong side of 35, I think, in terms of reflexes and his quickness and his ability to move around, I think it's good that this fight's happening now. For Fury, physically, I initially thought, because he had that layoff that he would be better this time because he's been back fighting more, and that does help him. But I've changed my mind on that a little bit where I think he's going to be kind of the same. I don't think he's going to be particularly better, but I think what he did confirm in the Wallin fight, you didn't really need to see it after what he did against Wilder the first time, but I'm really convinced. The guy's definitely got heart. I mean, he's cut badly against Wallin, and he had a much tougher time than you would have expected, but then he started really pushing him back, and I think there's a possibility he tries to do that against Wilder. That might, but I don't know if he'll stay with that, with the offense that Wilder has. You'd have to push him straight back. I think it comes down to, in terms of improvements for Wilder, it's just getting back to, what he did some in that first Stavern fight where, he is a puncher and you don't want to nullify your strengths, but he's better when he uses the jab, the 1-2, and he moves around some. And he didn't do that in the first fight. I got a little more confidence that they knew what to do when I read Breland about 5 days after the first fight, and it got me thinking that he and Wilder know what to do, that, the plan was to box more, and they just, in the first fight, at least some, with the 1-2, they didn't do it. Wilder was over-anxious in the first fight. There's no doubt about that, and I think he's going to have to box some, even though Fury's a good boxer. I think Wilder can box him some with the 1-2. I think he would have had trouble maybe if Fury was going to turn southpaw because he's had some trouble, figuring out Ortiz at first and even Spielka. But Fury didn't go southpaw at all in the first fight, and I don't think he will this time because you read some of these old trainers, they make a good point, and I've even seen a couple of sharp fans point this out that, Fury, he did the southpaw a lot against Chisora. I mean, he's one of the better guys at doing it. I'm usually not in favor of it, but I thought he could give Wilder trouble with it. But I think that it's just too dangerous for him to do it. Wilder hits too hard, and he's best fighting as a right-hander. And I think he, looking back, knew that going into that first fight. He got dropped twice as it was, that he just can't afford to go southpaw against Wilder. And I think that helps Wilder. because I don't think Fury's going to do it again Saturday night. He'd be surprised if he did. So I don't think he's going to go there, and I think ultimately that helps Wilder just go to his 1-2 and be able to box him a little more. But I don't think either guy will be better necessarily, but they might do some different things. Fury trying to back Wilder up a little bit, and Wilder boxing with the 1-2 a little bit more to set up his stuff.
Well, see, I don't think this. I don't think that he can afford to back Wilder up a little bit. And I'll go with Jeremiah on this because when I say that, I think that he can afford to be the aggressor, get in his chest, but I think he's going to have to be there all night because the thing we saw get him in trouble the last fight is the times where he set his feet and got a little square and stood in front of Wilder were the 2 times he got knocked down. All the other times when he was in front of him, he would then, circle out to his right or his left quickly so Wilder couldn't throw a punch to hit him because, let's face it, Wilder's not very good. And it's not like he's going to be able to throw a quick combination because he doesn't. So I think if he pushes right into him, he gets in his chest, I think he could beat him. And I think on the opposing side, if I'm Wilder, I would like to see Wilder throw a body shot once because I think that's a way he could win this fight.
Jeremiah. I agree. I mean, it's to be honest with you, there hasn't been much talk of Deontay Wilder going to the body, and I assume that's because he likes to stay at range. He's not a renowned body puncher. It doesn't really seem, especially when it comes to heavyweights, it doesn't seem like it's an ingrained part of his arsenal, and that's an unfortunate thing because he is. The smaller guy, he is the puncher. Whenever you want to slow down a mover, that makes a lot of sense. But, whether he does it or not, of course, we're going to wait until Saturday night to see. But I'm with you. Like, Tyson Fury is a surprisingly good body puncher himself for a big man. I mean, he's been training with Ricky Hatton for many years. Against Wallin, he was throwing some good left hooks up top and into the body. I mean, he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be physical. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I was getting a little static there, so I was like, hold on, can you hear what I'm saying? But yeah, so what I'm saying is, I think it would be a good thing for Tyson Fury to go at Deontay Wilder, push him, rough him up, lean on him, wear him out, and then I think you're right on the flip side too. And I also think John Einreinhofer is onto something as well. Like, but I don't know how that dynamic would play itself out with Fury being the aggressor and Wilder moving as much as he did in the first Deverne fight. That would be an interesting wrinkle, and it would kind of remind me a bit of how Alvarez Golovkin 2 played out, where a lot of us didn't believe that Alvarez was going to come forward, get in the line of fire. Can Fury afford that? It's tough to say, but the interesting thing about this fight is that I could see any one of these scenarios playing out. I could see Fury being the aggressor the whole time. I could see Wilder being the boxer, but is that really what they want to do? I don't think, maybe in Wilder's part, but, it doesn't really play. I don't think it plays to Fury's strengths as much if he were to be the aggressor because, like you said, he's got to, Bayless, if there's one concern about Bayless, he is the kind of guy who breaks people up from the clinches quickly. So it would be one of those things where he'd break them up and then Fury would have to go get in his wheelhouse temporarily again and again. So I don't know, but I would like to see it. I would like to see him be the bigger man, rough him up, see how that plays out. I'm not really sure, but I hope. Hopefully instead of what we got the last time, which really to me wasn't that exciting of a fight, where they were just standing there poking, prodding, not a lot of clean punches were landed except for the the hard shots that knocked Tyson Fury down. I would like to see, even if we don't get it as a mainstay for their game plans, it would nice to see a variety of action this time.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that, though.
No.
I think we saw that from the Ortiz fight against Wilder, and I think we've seen that in most Tyson Fury fights. Ben Davidson not being in the corner, John Raspanti. How big of a difference do you think it makes for Tyson Fury not to have Davidson there?
It's so hard to figure on that because he was so impressed with him and he liked him and they were close friends and Davison stuck by him and helped him get back, and kind of a bummer the way that he let him go. I didn't particularly like it. He said that Dan Davison and him worked on defense more than anything else, and now this new trainer, it's more offense. And then there was a money issue. It's hard to say. I don't think at this point in Fury's career it's that big of a deal. Just depends on what strategy he uses. Since he's the bigger man by 50 pounds and he's more aggressive, which he seems to think he needs in this fight because he doesn't want a decision, and that's why he got the new trainer, I guess it might help a little bit, but the way Davison was unceremoniously dropped was typical in boxing. The way you always blame the trainer when things don't go right, like you fire the coach when it's the player's fault. But it's really hard to say, Mike, because Fury's got a really good boxing IQ, and I think he can adjust in there if he needs to. I also think that Wilder is going to be aiming for his eye with his jab. And you guys were talking about body shots. I mean, why doesn't Wilder just go to the body with his jab? I mean,
yeah.
even something as subtle as that might be enough to make Fury go, oh, that's different. So, but to answer your question, it's really hard to say because Fury seems to have a different mindset unless he's playing mind games. And I kind of think he is. I think he is going to be more physical, maybe throw some more punches, but he's not going to go out there. He sounds like Muhammad Ali. So, I'm going to knock the guy out in the second round. And he's creating a buzz. So when the second round starts, people are going to be like, well, this is the round he predicted and all this. So, he's in Wilder's head. But I think that the changes are going to be subtle, but they might be subtle to help. So we're just going to have to see how it plays out in the fight.
All right. John Einreinhofer, we talk about Wilder's – John Raspanti just talked about Fury's boxing IQ and how he thought it was high. Is Wilder a guy who can do something different and win?
Yeah, I think he definitely is, and that's where I disagree with a lot of people, but I have seen some trainers, not all, taking the same position. I saw Joey Gamache talking some about that in one of the previews this week. Wilder can go to the 1-2 more, like the Stavern fight. I mean, I think forget the body thing. He's not a body puncher. Vladimir Klitschko wasn't. Larry Holmes wasn't. It's more of that 1-2 type style. I mean, that's Wilder. But you look at the knockdown of Fury in the 12th round. You saw how Wilder stuck the jab out first. Then he nailed him with the right. He got up on him quick with it, and then he followed it with the left hook. You saw when he decided to pick up the pace against Ortiz in the second fight in the round he knocked him out on. I think he was just waiting for Ortiz to get a little bit tired. He had to watch the southpaw stance a little bit. But even before he landed the knockout punch in that round, he started opening up on him with the 1-2, and he blinded him with the jab right before he dropped the right hand right in on him and knocked him out with the one shot.
That is Luis Ortiz, who never beat anybody but Bryant Jennings. Yeah.
But the thing is, Wilder as good of a boxer as Fury is, he can do that to Fury. And I don't think Wilder by decision is out of the question here either, because I think if he goes
I don't either. Not with the judges the way they are and fighting in America.
But even out just straight out fair judging, I think he could knock him down along the way. If he goes with the 1-2, the thing you saw at moments of the first Wilder fight and the Fury with Klitschko is, even though Fury has shown me, I didn't think earlier in his career, but he's proven to me now, he does have the offensive skills to do more, but there's something in his mentality, frankly, when he's been in there with the big punchers that, Wilder and Klitschko, that he freezes up, because he did virtually nothing in that Klitschko fight, even though he got the win. There was rounds against Wilder, he was doing virtually nothing. Now, in Fury's defense, showing the ability, I think what Wilder fans are not looking at enough, that I think if you want to look at a way Wilder might lose this fight, when we talk about a more aggressive Fury, is Fury came back very strong in the 12th after the knockdown and was on the verge of having Wilder in trouble, but Wilder's got a heart and chin of his own. But you can't take that for granted to me if you're Wilder. But the question to me then for Fury is, can Fury get into the mentality when he's more aggressive? Sure, he's a good boxer, but let's face it, in a lot of the rounds with Wilder, who can punch, and with Klitschko, who could punch, he was not throwing. And, that's not going to do it in a lot of rounds, and that's where he can lose a decision. I mean, he's not fighting a Chisora or a Christian Hammer. This is Wilder. Like when he was fighting Klitschko, even though it was a very faded Klitschko, he has not let his hands go at times, and he's become completely defensive when he's fought somebody that can punch. So he's got, if he brings the more aggressive Fury like that 12th in the 12th round against Wilder after he got dropped, or after he got cut against Wallin, that's what could be interesting. And like John Raspanti said, if Wilder is forced to go straight back, now I'm not talking about moving around Fury, but just straight back, and like Jeremiah would say, if Fury would try to lean on him a little, rough him up, there's going to be some risk there, but Wilder might not be able to do it if he's got to go straight back. But I think that's where Wilder's movement and more speed, he's lighter. I think he can move around him and negate that. But that's, to me, what is interesting about this rematch is some things that could happen that people might not be looking at.
And Larry Holmes was a much better body puncher than Deontay Wilder.
But Holmes never went to the body.
I saw him go to the body. If you watched the Ken Norton 14th and 15th rounds, he went to the body. I watched him make Muhammad Ali, even though it was an old one, scream out in pain with a body shot.
He did beat on Ali in the corner there on the body.
I mean, he could throw to the body. The thing is, he had maybe the greatest jab in heavyweight history, if not the greatest, one of the top three. So you can't even say Deontay Wilder and Larry Names is home at the same time. I told you that. Even if you say poor man's before it. That's like saying, with all due respect, and then I tell you you're an asshole. And I'm not saying that either because I like you, John, even though people don't think when we talk about these guys. But, it still doesn't mean anything because I think this. I don't think either one of these guys have his chin. I don't think either one of them have been hit by anybody. Maybe Wilder is the greatest puncher in heavyweight history, but I will still go for George Foreman, who knocked out George Foreman and Ken Norton. I'm not going to sit here and think Deontay Wilder is the greatest puncher I ever saw because he knocked out a bunch of guys that aren't that good. I watched Steve Cunningham put Tyson Fury down. I think either one of these guys could be knocked out in this fight because I really don't think either one of them are that good. But am I way off here, John Raspanti?
I think these guys have proven they're good now, Mike.
Really? Who'd they beat?
Go ahead, John.
Who'd they beat?
But Fury's 6'9". He's
Will Chamberlain was 7 foot. Are you one of those guys that think he might have been able to beat Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, but these guys, look, it's that these guys, Wilder's 6'7". He's got quickness and the power. I don't think he's earned the title to be the hardest puncher in heavyweight history yet, even though that, I've been a believer in him and still am. I mean, I think, he's trying to establish his legacy like that, but there hasn't been enough there yet compared to people like you said, when you got a guy like George Foreman's knocking out Ken Norton and Joe Frazier. We're not there yet. But these are the heavyweight division's getting better. These are big guys. We've never seen guys this big. That really, Fury's fast. Wilder's got speed. These are big, fast guys. So I think you have to. You have to respect that.
They're big, fast guys that Evander Holyfield would have walked through. That Mike Tyson, who I'm not a big fan of, would have walked through. He'd have hit him in the body and they'd have cried. So this is why this fight is not that big. I mean, if it does 1 million pay-per-view, which it should, they'll be lucky. I mean, they haven't sold the arena out yet. I couldn't imagine Larry Holmes fighting Jerry Cooney. Larry Holmes fought Jerry Cooney. I looked it up. Almost 30,000 seats sold out within a day of the tickets going on sale. I mean,
There's no doubt boxing's not what it was in terms.
It's not what it was because we don't have the fighters we once had.
I think myself. I actually think that the fighters today. There's plenty of good fighters out there, but the sport's not what it was, and the guys are never going to be as active as they were, and we don't have the best fighting the best as often. This is one of those fights. I think my view of it is what's missing now compared to the past eras, which of course I have complete respect for, is that with like Wilder and a Fury not being as active against good opposition as guys in past eras, it takes them longer in time to build a legacy that at least you can look at a little bit more to compare with these past eras, even though these guys are in their 30s. So I think they still have a little ways to go. Saturday night takes them one step closer, either or both of them, but then they need more after that. Then when the dust starts settling, I think they'll actually start comparing more favorably to some of the guys you've mentioned.
So you think that these two guys are going to compare favorably to Larry Holmes and Joe Louis?
They're not. They need more time because they're not going to be as active. I mean, we know how active guys like Lewis were, and even Holmes, and how many defenses they made. But that's what I'm saying. Like, let's say either of these guys, has a compelling win Saturday night in an entertaining fight, and then let's just make up a scenario. Let's say wins the rematch, and then takes out Joshua next year or something like that. You got to look at scenarios like that.
Yeah, I have. I look at that scenario, and the scenario I see is Anthony Joshua's not any good either, so they're just beating other guys that aren't very good. I mean, when I watched Larry Holmes, all right, people rip on Holmes, but I watched Larry Holmes beat a pretty good Ken Norton. I watched him beat a pretty good – I saw him beat a bunch of pretty good guys. I don't see anybody in this era that I would even consider pretty good compared to those guys. With Joe Louis, we saw him knock out Max Schmeling. Max Schmeling was – I know he was past his prime, but, I mean, still, that was a Max Schmeling that had beat him just 2 years earlier. Billy Conn was a great light heavyweight, but, of course, Louis fought every month and beat the hell out of everybody. But when I look at this, I don't see a scenario where there's anybody good enough. I mean, if you look at the top 10 today, it's not as good as it was when Klitschko was the champion. I don't see Alexander Povetkin or Ruslan Chagayev. I mean, I just see a bunch of big guys that throw one punch at a time, and we're going to act like what we saw the last time was a great fight, when in actuality what we saw was a great 12th round.
Yeah, I think that the depth, the two Klitschko brothers, stood out in that era, but nobody else particularly did. I mean, Povetkin, has PED issues, but he's proved that
he doesn't. He didn't have PED. He didn't have PED issues because you know what? Canelo Alvarez did, but that was all right with you. So I mean, there's no reason to even bring that up because we already know that with PEDs. I mean, some people will let do it, some people we won't, and we'll just go from there. Jeremiah.
It's a different issue. It's a different issue with Povetkin, but
no, it's not. It's not. It's a performance-enhancing drug. It's a different issue with you because you like those guys. You like Canelo, so it's all right.
It's not different. It's different on what happened. But let's throw out the PED issue.
How's it different?
The Klitschko era was not a good heavyweight era outside of the Klitschkos.
Never said it was.
The Holmes era was not a good heavyweight era outside of Larry Holmes.
The only good heavyweight eras we've had were in the 1960s and 70s and the 90s.
Right, but those other eras were weaker, and the depth
they were weaker than this.
The depth in this era is going to end up proving out to be better than a lot of those.
There's no Adam Konatsky's ranked 9th or 10th, isn't he? I mean, come on. Adam Konatsky's ranked 9th or 10th. Scott LaDuda kicked his ass.
I mean, he's not ranked in transnational right now. He might be still 10 in the ring. But, hey, Konatsky's still he compares favorably to a lot of the guys that would have been in the bottom half.
He compares favorably to Butterbean and the Michelin Man. That's about it.
He throws a lot of punches.
Good for him.
A lot of punches. You're forgetting about guys like Alex Leopai fighting the Klitschkos. I mean, Tony Thompson having 2 title challenges. Things along those lines. I mean, that was a.
I'm not forgetting about that because I didn't bring them up. You did. I was bringing up the guys in the top 5. I mean, Andrew Ruiz, he's crap. I mean, he's a brave guy that knocked out Joshua the second time they fought. Joshua ran circles around him because Joshua had since been knocked out and didn't want to get his chin tested again because he knows he can't take it. And we've got Alexander Usyk, who could be the best guy there. But the problem is he's always hurt because his PED issue is breaking his body down as he gets bigger. Because I'm not stupid. I know what goes on. I mean, come on. To sit here and tell me we can't judge heavyweights because today's guys aren't. Dillian White, did he get busted for PEDs?
He's tested positive twice.
Did Jarrell Miller get tested positive?
Yeah, Jarrell Miller is tested positive.
Okay, so the only people we know that aren't doing PEDs are Adam Konatsky because they don't serve PEDs at Burger King unless he can get clenbuterol and a double cheeseburger.
Well, Wilder hasn't tested positive.
But he uses them. I'm not stupid, John. And this is the thing. When I see a guy that's all ripped, why would you think that he doesn't use them? I mean, everybody uses them. They don't test for everything. I mean, this is worked around.
The guy's 6'7". He weighed in, 212 for the first
Well, you know what? What size was Ben Johnson? He didn't have muscles on top of muscles, but he was still using PEDs. I mean, I don't care because the thing is this. The thing we found out about PEDs, if you're Jarrell Miller, we're not going to hold you accountable. If you're Canelo Alvarez, we're not going to hold you accountable. If you're Alexander Povetkin, you're held accountable. If you're somebody we don't really need, you're accountable. If you're somebody we do need, you're not. Does anybody here really believe? Anthony Joshua, if he's not on PEDs, I'm 4 feet tall.
Well, Canelo's positive test was different than the other guy.
No, it wasn't. It was a positive test.
It
was a positive test. He was cheating. Don't give me this fake-ass Mexican meat bullshit. I'm so sick of this. I mean, they suspend him for 6 months, but you'll bust Povetkin for a year. Jarrell Miller's already eligible to fight, but Povetkin was busted for a year. I don't want to hear this shit. You either tested positive or you didn't. And the rules were if you tested positive for clenbuterol, you were suspended for a year, but not if you're Canelo and you can fight Triple G a few months later. We can make it look like you got a year punishment. And don't give me this, he did everything he was supposed to and he was cooperative with the law. That's bullshit. I mean, Canelo gets his way.
I'm just going on his test was within trace elements for contaminated heat.
Oh, God. And so was Povetkin's the first time, wasn't it, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I mean, the meldonium thing, sure. I mean...
Yeah, he tested within the limits. But you still bring that up. And I'm sorry, John, but if you think Canelo wasn't cheating, you're nuts. I mean...
Mike, Povetkin went to a jury trial in district court, the United States District Court for the District of New York, and the jury found that when the experts testified that he intentionally ingested the melodeon on the date that they knew
What did they find when Canelo went to court?
The guy had a full-blown jury trial with experts and got found that he took the melodeon, and he had one other positive test for a different substance in addition to that one. But Canelo had the one for the clenbuterol, which was in the trace. The trace elements of the meat.
Elements of the meat because he started cycling off too late. That's all that is. It's horse shit. He cheated. It's the way it is. And I don't hold it against him because I think 90% of guys are cheating. I think 80% of the guys in the NFL are cheating. That's just what happens. Hell, we know the Houston Astros cheated. Don't make excuses for him. He did it. He got busted. He got to serve half the sentence everybody else would, and then he got off. Same thing with Jarrell Miller.
I'm just stating what the facts are.
I'm just telling you this. You're either
I'm not condoning cheating for any of them.
You're either for. Yeah, you are. Because this is the thing, John. That's bullshit. Because if you're not condoning cheating, you should want this punished to the fullest extent. Anybody that get busted for steroids, they should be suspended for 2 years. That's it. If not, let everybody do whatever the hell they want. It's the only way to make this fair. Because if you're really
I've never advocated that somebody shouldn't be suspended for testing positive for PED.
Well, you're defending him. You're defending him. You're defending him with what
the test were.
Yeah, you're defending him. Yeah, you're defending him with what Donald Trump supporters defend him with. Well, Hillary Clinton did this. Same thing Hillary Clinton supporters do when they get accused of something they did. Well, Donald Trump did this. Don't give me that shit. He tested positive, so I don't want to hear Alexander Povetkin tested positive, because if I brought up Canelo, you would never say that he tested positive. So you're telling me there is no way in the world that Canelo cheated?
I never said there was no way in the world.
Okay.
I just said that his test was within the elements for contaminated meat, which is a fact.
Yeah, and it's also a fact that he could have been using clenbuterol at the ass and had been stopped for a month and a half, and there was still some trace elements in there, correct?
Could have been. I'm just saying what the facts of the test
All right.
the fact that
let's move on. It's obvious that I won that argument.
He did get suspended.
All right, what fight were we talking about, Jeremiah? Canelo Triple G3? Well,
Looks
hey,
like it's on the map.
at least with Canelo, if he fights Billy Joe Saunders, you just got to worry about Billy Joe tested for, cocaine or something. All right. Will this fight do 1 million pay-per-view buys, Jeremiah?
Oh, man, that's an awfully big question. I don't know, honestly. I mean, with the push during the Super Bowl and, the hype machine surrounding it, and, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury doing a pretty good job of selling the fight himself. I mean, Tyson Fury doing crossover promotional stuff with the WWE and all this other stuff, being on all these sports talk shows. I mean, Fury's really been putting his brand out there, doing a lot of PR stuff for himself. Wilder's been doing a pretty good job as well. And so it looks as if it should do well. I mean, just because of all the money backing it and all the promotion that they have been getting. But it comes down to the fight itself. And, personally, I have mixed feelings about it, because the first fight, I didn't think it was anything close to a great fight. I mean, it reminded me a bit of like Klitschko Joshua, where by and large the guys were just kind of poking at each other with their jabs.
More dramatic than a great fight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, to me, it was far from a great fight. And if I remove myself from, everything surrounding it, and I just put the fight into context by itself, I mean, is it something that I really want to pay for? Personally, no. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think the first fight was anything close to great. Again, there was some drama, but like fight for fight, was it as good as some of the other fights I've seen recently, even in the heavyweight division? I don't know, man. I mean, but outside of my own perspective, again, I do think the amount of money that has been put behind this, the fact that these guys have really been putting themselves out there, building brands, building towards this crescendo. When I couple that with it's kind of an odd fight date being late in February, that's not really associated with like a fight date. It's tough. It's tough to really pin down and say, but if it reaches 1 million, obviously that's a pretty good success. Maybe we'll see some more crossover promotional stuff because of it. But if I was to guess, I would say that it won't reach 1 million, but it will reach. I'm gonna guess at like 750,000. That's gonna be my guess.
All right, John Raspanti.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll be surprised if it hits 1 million. I agree pretty much with everything Jeremiah said. They've done a really good job of promoting it. I mean, the best they can. They've sold the 12th round. They've showed the drama. They didn't talk about how, you guys are right, the other rounds, the number of rounds were kind of boring. But they went like a trailer of a movie. They show you what they think are the best moments, and there were some good moments, especially the 12th round. That's what people remember. That's what people talk about subliminally, and it hits you in the head with the 12th round. And, oh, okay, well maybe that'll be like that for all the 12 rounds. Unlikely, no, I can't see that happening. But I think that's a good guess too. I was thinking when Jeremiah was talking 700,000 would be. I think they'd consider that a success in nowadays world, and that's what it is. I mean, what you guys were talking about, Mike, with John. I think what this is these guys, and this is going to sound kind of bad, but this is the way it is. These guys are the best for now, and that's not saying much. That's the point. for right now, they're the best. And you putting the word best in there is kind of hard for me, but they are the top guys. If you compare them to other errors, you know they're going to fall way short. So for that part, for somebody who, like me, or in my opinion, who remembers when the heavyweights were really something, like 1971, March 8th, it's difficult to get real excited about it. But I do that now. I say to myself, well, this is what it is now. This is the way it is now. And even though I'm not overly impressed or even a little bit impressed that much, this is the way it is for right now.
Yeah,
so I try to find
I think
plus.
what you say there makes a ton of sense, because Ali Frazier, these guys were fighting, but you thought that it's possible maybe you were seeing the two best heavyweights, or you were seeing two all-time greats. With Ollie Foreman, same way. With Holmes Cooney, it's kind of the same thing, because Holmes was at a point where people were starting to think maybe he was, and you had Cooney, who people thought might be. I think with these guys, they're just the two best right now, and that's still a big sell. And if you put this fight in 1975 and none of those other fighters fought in the 70s, because if they did, let's face it, these guys would be ranked 15th and 16th, then it would be a big fight, just because boxing was much bigger back then. John Einreinhofer, does it do $1 million? What's a successful number if it doesn't?
How about with Jeremiah? I've been having a lot of trouble pinpointing this one. I felt like I've been pretty good on these feelings in the past. This one's given me more trouble than usual. The trouble I've got is more from a boxing history perspective, especially in the pay-per-view era. Rematches don't do as good as the original.
Well, Holyfield Tyson 2
did. Holyfield Tyson 2 was the major exception, which did the bite fight did much better than the original. But generally, that's the major exception to the rule. Generally, rematches do much worse. The first one did like 350. Now, like as Jeremiah said, and I agree. I mean, they for where boxing is today, they seem to be doing everything they can to promote it. You've got good promotion on Fox, ESPN. You've got Heyman and Arum cooperating. These are a lot of good things for boxing nowadays. But I just look at where the sport is, and general viewing has started to go down in all sports a bit. What can it do? For myself, I find myself, I have to just look back to more recent history. I'm looking at something really like, even though Canelo's a bigger star, I'm looking at something really like Canelo Golovkin 2. They upped the price. It was a rematch. They had slightly less buys in the first fight, but they made slightly more money because they charged more.
Yeah. Weren't they like 950,000 or something? 900,000.
Right, and this is charging like the amount of Canelo Golovkin 1, which was a little over $1 million. So I don't feel real confident about this prediction. And just in recent days, I'm thinking with the extra promotion, McGregor supposedly did $2 million on the ESPN Plus pay-per-view, but recently, MMA is trending a little more popular, but not as much popular as people think on the numbers. It's just a little bit, but I think combat sports may be just turning out to be capped a bit. So looking at all those factors, I'm thinking maybe just scraping $1 million is kind of what I'm coming at, and that's on my optimistic side, though. Really, I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic there. I don't feel real great about that prediction, but as the fight's a couple days away, that's kind of where I'm laying in on it. Then because it'd have to beat the first fight by a lot to do $1 million. I mean, you got to beat the first fight.
Yeah, that's 3 times.
650,000. Yeah, I mean that's where I don't feel great about that. But I'm thinking, well, you got Fox streaming now. You've got the ESPN Plus app, plus all the regular cable systems. I'm thinking maybe with all that in the promotion combined, you scrape $1 million, but that's being real optimistic, I think.
Yeah, I think that you're looking probably between 500 and 800. I know it's a big difference, but it's the same thing as John Einreinhofer said. I don't really have a good feel about it. I think for it to be a success, it needs to be over 700,000 just because of all the promotion that was done. Because with all the promotion that was done, if they can't get at least near $1 million, Well, hell, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe that'll be the end of pay-per-view, John Einreinhofer.
I agree with you though. I agree with you there, though, Mike. As we're all longtime boxing fans here, going back decades, and you want to be optimistic, but I think you got the top two heavyweights fighting, and you're at a point where, we're not comfortable. You can do $1 million. I would, I wouldn't mind seeing pay-per-view ending, but again, with the MMA, they're going full steam ahead with it. It just seems like they're pushing boxing and MMA into niches where you got to pay for it if you want to watch it, which is not good for the long-term health, and even for the fans like us to have to keep paying. And even like a guy like Steven Espinosa, I think correctly is saying is, how much time commitment can you put into all these fights, a lot of them which aren't that good? We're talking about this is the best we're getting offered, and then you got to pay $75. So I think the future is kind of questionable like that, and that's why you can't feel real comfortable, unless there's some shocking surprise. But I don't see that, because when in recent years where I've tried to think, well, maybe will this be one, it just hasn't happened. So Pacquiao Mayweather's the exception. That's what they keep shooting for. I just don't know if there's any evidence that nobody's predicting it, and I'm not either. But I mean, we just don't seem to be able to get to that level.
Yeah, Bob Arum said $3 million at one point.
Right, he was trying to do the optimistic. Right, Bob Arum said something like that.
Yeah, he'll also tell you he's a good man. So a lot of shit wrong with that guy. All right. We got to do some predictions.
Well, a few hours ago it got reported that he's trying to sell Top Rank. So I guess that's all. That's a lot right there.
Oh, is that right? Hey, no.
We ought to buy it, guys.
True, yes. That was going to be my next comment. If Top Rank is on the market, let's gather enough money. We'll do the Waddle and Reed thing. We'll overtake it. And then we'll move on to Heyman and all the other stuff until we buy them all up.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's the room. They said that's what he wants. He wants 300, or that's around that number. They said he wants 300 million is what the rumor is of the asking.
Well, John. Okay, John. Well, you're a lawyer. You got to be rubbing elbows with big timers. I mean, is there something we can work out? Can we raise that capital and get this done? Come on, man.
Yeah, because would
Top Rank would Top Rank be a good deal for 300 million? I don't get the feeling like it would be.
Maybe if you did it right, made everybody fight, maybe it'd work.
Well, I mean, that's above my economics intelligence to know what their market value is. I look at the whole Waddle and Reed thing kind of as some sort of standard. I mean, if you compare Top Rank and what they're doing to Waddle and Reed and Premier Boxing Champions, I don't know. But if we could get a discount, I don't know. Was Bob a lawyer? I thought Bob was a lawyer too.
Yeah, he was a U.S. attorney. He was a U.S. attorney. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. We got to get something done, man. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh hell! All right, predictions. John Einreinhofer, I know you're the president of the Eli Manning fan club, but who do you got in this fight?
Yeah, but this was a tough one, because I got to go back to when we were doing our post-fight show. My initial thought, right as the first fight ended, was, well, Fury can be a little more active now. I mean, active in terms of fighting, and because he had that little bit of time off, and it might be tough for Wilder in the rematch. I think it'll still be tough, but about 5 days after the fight, as I referred to earlier, when I was, it was from a credible source, but they were interviewing Mark Breland, but it was about 5 days after the fight, so it didn't get a lot of publicity, and I felt though more comfortable then. He was saying the plan was supposed to be for Wilder to use the 1-2 to box a little bit, and that he was just over anxious, and he wasn't following the plan. Now, I think, of course, he's got to do that in this fight, but I felt more comfort that Breland was saying that. I think Wilder's even playing a little possum about saying, all I need is 2 seconds and 1 punch. We're going to find out Saturday night if I'm wrong or not, of course, but I think he's going to go to the 1-2 more, move around a little bit more, of course, still use his power. I think he's got to be, like I said, I think what they're underestimating a little bit is the way Fury came on strong in the 12th round after he got knocked down. I think that aggressive version of a Fury actually could be a problem for Wilder, especially if Wilder has to move straight back. But I don't think that's Fury's full-time mentality. Fury's shown he's got heart, but there's something there where I don't think it is. And I think he'll probably have a lot of rounds where he's cautious. And even though it's the remote scenario, as the fight grows closer, I'm leaning a little bit more to Wilder by a decision that I think one thing Fury proved to me is Wilder with that crazy finishing style that's so awkward. It's been really effective. Even other fighters say it, even though it doesn't look good. But I'm going to say this. That didn't work against Fury the two times Wilder dropped him. And I actually don't think that's going to work Saturday night. So I'm not sure unless Wilder just catches him with one bomb where Fury just completely loses his senses, which with Wilder's not impossible. I think he may just drop him and Fury's going to have enough tentative rounds and Wilder's going to work the 1-2 a little better, move a little better, that he wins the decision over Fury. Even though it's a more remote scenario, of course, not impossible. He could stop him. I'm picking Wilder, but I'm going to say I don't think the Fury by KO scenario is that remote, even though I'm picking Wilder. I think if Fury fights like he did in the latter part of the 12th round and gets aggressive, like he did even against Volin after he got cut, as big of a puncher as Wilder is, he might have trouble with a big guy like Fury coming at him like that. Fury outweighs him by 40-plus pounds. And I don't think it's impossible Fury could win by knockout, but I think it's going to be Wilder, probably by decision, maybe dropping Fury once along the way. That's kind of what I'm settling in as we've got the fight time.
All right, John Raspanti.
Well, I think opposite of John. I think that Fury will win a decision. I think it's going to be similar to the first fight with little subtle differences with the physicality of Fury. But I think he punches more, and it's going to be another one of these fights in a sense that it'll be hard to judge because of Wilder waiting. Now, this could all change if Wilder fights a little differently, like we said. Like John keeps saying, if he throws that big stick out there and jabs more and is a little more active, then it'll be really tough to score. But my gut is telling me that Fury, because he's a better boxer, and so many people have outboxed Wilder. Wilder did show some boxing ability against Severn. Hell, I was there, and he shocked all of us. So he can box a little bit, but against it was Berman Severn. So we have to keep that in the equation here. But I think that Fury's going to edge him on a decision. Not edge him. He's going to win a decision. I just think. See, the thing is, it's tricky. I got a feeling that Wilder really feels like he's got something to prove in this fight, more than usual. So to me, that makes him dangerous. Anybody, Mike knows this. You play sports, you got a guy who's even a little more determined than you are, even if his skill level might not be as high. He's really, really feeling, I'm playing amateur psychologist here, but he's really not feeling much love or respect. And I think he's really, really triple motivated, which means that he might try a few things that John was saying. He might jab for the eye. He might, whatever it takes.
Well, and I would think my worry when you talk about people like that is if they're out to prove something, it'll go one way or the other. It's going to go real south or it's going to go real good. Because you have a tendency, especially if the first round or two, if Fury can box him solidly and he gets frustrated and he starts to press, then I think things go really wrong for him.
That could be. I doubt he's going to press, though. Like I said, he has one thing, like we all said, he has one thing that he didn't have the first fight, is he's fought Fury before. So he pretty much knows to a degree what to expect. So that makes it intriguing. But I just think the boxing skills of Fury, as long as he doesn't get tagged with whatever, he should be able to win a decision. But I'm not 100% confident like I was the first fight. I thought for sure Fury would win a decision. I just have a gut feeling that Wilder might catch him, and I don't think if he catches him right, he's getting up this time. But I'm going to give the edge to Fury by decision.
Jeremiah?
Well, I think if there's, again, I don't think that highly of this fight as a whole, but listening to all of us discuss this fight, it's easy to pick out that there's not a whole lot that we're certain of here. I mean, it's, and, I've already done I haven't finished it, but I've looked at the prediction article that we're putting together. It seems like Wilder is getting the edge in a lot of the analysis. I think they are kind of in line with what Einreinhofer alluded to a bit earlier, where, Wilder said, well, Fury has to be perfect for all 12 rounds. I just have to be perfect for 2 seconds, or whatever the exact quote was. So I'm seeing that Wilder's starting to get more of an edge here. For me, I'm actually going in the opposite direction. I actually feel more confidently Tyson Fury can win the fight. I really only think he needs to do basically what he did in the first fight, but just be more active and not be as sloppy with his defense. I mean, for me, it's as simple as that. I don't think Wilder has improved enough to where he's going to go in there and take a bunch of chances. He hasn't shown that. I mean, and you look at his history against Spilka, Gerald Washington, Luis Ortiz in both fights, he could be outboxed. To me, he's not a great thinker. He's not a great improviser. Again, I think Fury can pretty much do what he did in the first fight and win a decision, and that's the way that I'm leaning. But again, I like listening to all the analysis because it seems like this can play out in so many different ways. That is one of the most intriguing aspect of this fight. But I'm taking Fury. But what I would like to see, so I'm picking Fury by decision. I think he just moves the boxes, wins that way. What I would like to see is the bigger guy. Like I was watching some George Foreman earlier, and I know we referenced him, but it would be pretty cool to see Fury go right at Wilder and push him a bit like Foreman. So I actually watched Foreman Shannon Briggs, and I would like to see Fury just go at him, push him around, keep the jab in his face, and bang some right hands in there and try to get him out of there. Unlikely. We got a different breed of fighter today, but I'm picking Fury UD.
I can't believe we brought up Shannon Briggs and I haven't even talked about Manuel Char's claim to the title yet.
No, please.
I think this. If Wilder wins this fight, he's got to knock him out before the 4th round. Because I believe this. I think the longer this fight goes, I think Tyson Fury is a tough dude. I think if you're going to get him, you get him early. Because I think once this fight, as we saw, you get in 10th, 11th, 12th round, he's going to get up. He's going to fight. I think you'd almost have to come out and shock him to get him out. I think that Fury will box him, but I think he will throw more punches. I think Fury will knock him out in the 7th round. We'll go 9th round. Fury by 9th round knockout. If you're listening to this and you want to bet the way I do, go do it, but you're at your own risk. So, I mean, I think it's kind of a toss-up. I am picking Fury because of one simple reason. I think that he has more ways to win than Wilder. Because I think with Wilder, he does have to land that one punch. Now, I could see Wilder winning a decision, and the way that would go to me is he fights him the way he fought Ortiz, and Fury fights the way he did against Klitschko, and they both overly respect each other, and they stand there and paw at each other for 12 rounds. Let's hope to God that doesn't happen. And if it does, let's hope only 200,000 people buy it on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But, and I want to add one quick thing. I wanted to say this on air, and I almost forgot. I also want to say that I don't think Deontay Wilder can keep getting away with what he's doing. Right? I don't think he can keep getting outboxed and keep scoring late knockouts. It's not the way things work. This isn't the kind of game where you can keep doing the same thing over and over.
Rocky Marciano did it.
Yeah, well, I think Rocky Marciano had significant nuance to his game too.
Yeah, he came
losing
up every round.
I know, but you said nobody.
Right.
Well, he was behind against Charles and Walcott and La Starza.
Yep. Well, but there's a big difference, right? Marciano kept grinding. I mean, you know, I'm not telling you anything new.
I was just giving you somebody that did do it. Damn it, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Wilder cannot keep getting away with losing rounds and then scoring a late round knockout. In boxing, eventually your flaws are going to get exposed, and I think this might be that fight.
All right, guys. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think just like we said, like Jeremiah said, there are a lot of scenarios here that everybody's pointed out that really are on the table as reasonable possibilities, which makes this interesting.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you got two average fighters going to war, it can be good sometimes. This is like Gotti and Ward if they'd stand there and throw punches. And then John could write a book
like
about it.
20 seconds.
Hey, real quick, though,
sure,
before we get off here, I do want John Raspanti. Tell us where they can find Blood on My Notebook, because I think it's one of the best boxing books that I've read in the last month. No, I'm kidding. It was actually longer ago than that, but it's an outstanding book, especially Armando Muniz. Anytime Armando Muniz is in a book, you need to buy it.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, you go to Amazon and you know the little thing there, you just type in Blood on My Notebook and you'll see it, and it says dispatches from the world of professional boxing by myself, and you can order it right there. It's very easy. And that Armando Muniz, boy, you're right. Boy, his family, I'll tell you this, Mike, his family was so touched by that story that I wrote that I sent them copies, all of them, to his kids and everything, and that might have been the highlight of his whole so-called career that I have, that his family was so touched by that. So it's just been incredible. Yeah, just go to Amazon. You can find Blood on My Notebook.
Yeah, you can also find Intimate Warfare that John wrote with Dennis Taylor, pictures by Ed Mulholland.
Yep.
Great book. Plus, more importantly, there's a lot of pictures, and that's why I got it. I'm from Indiana. Words just confuse me. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. I want to remind you, in a half hour, if you want to listen, me and Brian Schmidt will be back with the XFL Weekly Show as we preview Week 3 for the XFL. Yeah, we've got an XFL show. I was bored. Needed something else to do. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to remind you that you can follow us at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows wherever you find sports podcasts. And make sure you check out the Retired Boxers Foundation with Jackie Richardson and Alex Ramos. You can find them on Facebook. They do a lot of great things for retired boxers. But for now, for John Raspanti, John Einreinhofer, Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.